EEKtober, everyone. We are doing 31 days of scary movies, and today is day 23. I am your host, Melissa Forziat. I'm a keynote speaker, and when I speak, my topic is Take the Doughnut, which for me is another way to say Carpe Diem. And it comes from this weird thing that happened in college when I left an actual donut on a table, and it became an object lesson for me and what it looks like to leave opportunities behind. So I don't want to do that anymore. I want to take the donut. Now, from time to time, I'll issue myself a Take the Doughnut challenge. I'll say there's something that I want to do. I'll make it official. It's a way to keep myself accountable to it. But this time, I'm actually opening it up to anybody who wants to join. So here we are for 31 days of scary movies. Again, today is day 23. We watched In Fear for this one. This is from 2013, and it's a psychological film. It's a stalker film. It was directed by Jeremy Lovering and written by Jeremy Lovering and John Croker. And it stars, we've got three people in this film pretty much, almost exclusively, except for like a car full of people who moon them coming past. It's Ian de Castigar, who's Tom, Alice Englert, who plays Lucy, and Alan Leach, who plays Max. Some general notes on this film. Look, when I was thinking about the films that I wanted to put in this 31 days of scary movies EEKtober list, I looked at Funny Games and In Fear sort of side by side, and I was like, because I landed on 33 films, and I was trying to get down to 31, and I was like, can I cut one of these? And I decided no. So I did two double features. I didn't want to sacrifice anything, including, this movie and Funny Games. I wanted them both to be on this list, even though I think they sort of occupy a similar space in my brain. Funny Games, of course, is more a home invasion style of film. And this is not a home that's invaded, but it is a survival film. And I think both of them have just this unrelenting feeling about them. They have this sense of, why is this jerk doing all this? Some of the things that it creates are quite similar. There's a really big difference. There's a lot of differences between them, but one of the really big differences between them is that it doesn't break the fourth wall the way Funny Games does. The Funny Games is trying to make a statement about the fact that you as a viewer are still watching the film. And this one is just putting you in the car with these folks, and sort of making it feel like it's a situation that you might be in. So I think as much as there are other films on this EEKtober list that might have denser plots, more character development, more reasoning behind things, there's more of everything, right? This one had, I'm sure, an extremely limited budget. We have three main actors, and we're basically in the woods for the entire time. And it's mostly not lit that much. So, I mean, and rain probably was just a bonus. They would just work with the rain they had. So, there's not a ton of budget going into a film like this. And they're going to create some really simple tensions. Their exercise here is, can you sustain tension for the whole film? Can you build it in the beginning? Because they don't know that there's a problem right from the beginning, but we start to sort of ramp it up all throughout the beginning of the film. It's just like, it's just going on a little too long and a little too long. And then you start getting those close-ups of Lucy's eyes. And now you worry about the situation. And there's nothing complex about this. They leaned on some simple tools to create tension, and they asked, can we sustain it? And if you needed more from this film, then it maybe didn't sustain it for you. If you wanted to just be in this moment with them, then maybe it did sustain it for you. And I like the film. I think it does what it does effectively. I am also most affected by home invasion or survival type films. This is my preferred subgenre because it is more effective for me. Having said that, I don't find horror movies that scary these days because I've watched so many, so I'm kind of desensitized to them. So it is a little hard to put things like this in a bucket. But I I like what they attempted here. I like what they did, and I think they did it well. So it may or may not, any horror movie may or may not be your cup of tea. And for this one, I can totally appreciate criticisms around the thinness in this film. But let's face it, what were they working with in terms of budget? And even if they had a bigger one, were they trying to accomplish any of the things that you want this film to accomplish? I think that they were aiming for just like putting you in the car with these people and making it really uncomfortable and keeping it that way for a good long time. The other question that may be on your mind is, what's this guy's story? What's this Max's story? Why is all of this happening? Like we never really know what happened. Like nothing could have been that bad that was said back in the pub. And it really feels like this is a highly coordinated thing that wouldn't just be thrown together, you know? This seems like a planned attack. I'm guessing this is not the first time that something like this has happened. Granted, if Max dies at the end, you could think, yeah, this maybe is the first time something like this happened. But to me, I feel like this time was different for him. That's what I think. I think he had a real clear plan. He had enough marketing to have a whole hotel marketed around this. Like it needed to look real enough that Tom thought that he was making a reservation at a place and then showing up at the place. And then there was signage there. Doesn't matter how professional the signage looks, there was signage there. This isn't a one-day thing that he threw together. So why? Why is Max doing all of this? And why does he let Lucy live? And why does he want to end his life at the end of it? I just don't think this movie wants to go into those areas. It would if it did, and it does not. I think it's very similar to what we're going to see in Funny Games, where you just feel like these guys just do this. This is what they do. And this is what Max does. And he finds a reason and he believes his reason. And in this case, he wanted to take it out on Tom, but he realizes like Lucy is with Tom. He maybe didn't see Lucy because Lucy was going to the bathroom when Tom met him at the pub. So like maybe she was just an innocent bystander and maybe Max kind of liked what he saw with Lucy. And I don't know. I think you can sit here and say, is it scarier if you know everything about why he's doing what he's doing? Or is it scarier if you don't and exhibit 4,000 different things? I mean, there are so many horror movies out there that you can point to say one or the other is your preference. And I would say the worst of all solutions is to give like a one sentence answer, like, here, let me give you one sentence of exposition about why we're doing this. And that, in fact, is something that Funny Games plays with. Like, you know, the family says, why are you doing this? They give a reason and they're like, yeah, does that make you feel any better? Because that's not real. And we like, who cares? And so this movie doesn't even attempt to go there because it doesn't, you know, it's an hour and 25 minutes. Like it's not going to go into greater depth about why Max is doing all this. If you find yourself asking that question, it's a great question. And there are lots of other horror movies that might be more satisfying for you in that regard. I think you watch this film ready to just live in this world. And I think the other thing that helps us do that is that how many of us have been on some sort of a road trip, who have been on some sort of a car ride, either alone or with somebody else, where you found yourself on an open road with nothing around you. Or nothing around you, but like the woods, you know, how often have you been somewhere and thought, not a lot of people traveling this way? How often have you been somewhere and thought, is this even a road? I've had all of these things happen to me. I can completely relate to being lost in a car. Very familiar with that feeling. And to be lost in a car and feel like you're being pointed in the wrong direction is escalating that for sure. But I think the base situation here is one that probably a lot of us have had a moment where we've been driving somewhere where it was much more remote. And if anything like this had happened to us, what would we do? It taps into something that could be a little bit familiar. And the idea is that's meant to make it a little scarier for us. And then we have to sit in the car with Lucy and Tom and Max when he gets there. So I don't know. That's some just overall feelings about this film. I think this is a fun film. I think this is a really good film, to be honest. And that's why I have it on my list. They're not trying to do everything. They're trying to do this. And I like this. I think they did a good job with this. The film starts with Tom leaving a message for Lucy on an answering machine. And I like that it's happening over the credits. Like we're seeing the production companies listed and we're actually hearing something from the film. And it's kind of an unexpected choice for me to be hearing dialogue from the film over those moments. So Tom's leaving a message for Lucy. He's inviting her to a festival in Ireland. He's like, I mean, I don't mean it's a date. I'm just like, a bunch of us can go. Your friends, let's invite your friends. Let's do it. Let's go camping. So I guess Lucy says yes. I guess she invites her friends. We're going to see Lucy in a public bathroom. That's the first person we see when we open the movie. She is going to the bathroom in a stall, and there's things written on the stall wall, and one thing that we can clearly make out says, if a man hurts an innocent person, the evil will fall back upon him and the fool will be destroyed. And she writes, or not, which ultimately brings us to the end of the film, right? Because if you watch the film and then go back and read this again, it might explain why Max chooses to leave her alive, because she had nothing to do with whatever Tom did at the pub. If that is indeed the particular slight that Max is exacting retribution for, well, she wasn't actually a part of that. She's here in the bathroom stall. So, if this is his belief that, if I do something to Lucy, evil will fall back upon me and I will be destroyed, well, then there's, a reason to keep her alive. If you think you've already done something to her and she's been innocent the whole time, then maybe he should be destroyed anyway. So why does he choose to have her kill him at the end of the film? Maybe because of that. She writes, or not. So the question is, does she swerve out of the way? When the car is driving towards him at the end, does she swerve out of the way? Kind of hope not, to be honest. So we get, the camera is on an empty car. We're going to see Tom and Lucy kind of burst out of the pub and they're going to get into the car. Tom's saying, okay, so the festival doesn't actually start till tonight. So as a treat, I booked a hotel for us. Lucy hits him like, you said this wasn't a date. She's like, look, I have friends who are back at camping waiting for us. That's what we said we were doing. I invited them. Tom's like, yeah, but it's our 2-week anniversary. It's like, it's a nice place that I booked. It's good. He shows her some promotional info. Lucy agrees. Okay, fair enough. When did he book this place? They just met. Did he book it while he was in the pub? Because what is happening? So, okay, we are in the lot of this pub and he says, okay, we have to wait here until 7 and then somebody's going to show us the way. And it turns out that person's already there. They honk, they start driving out. It says Killarney House Hotel on the logo of the car, and they're going to follow this car out to a remote area. We're going to get some of the only explanation we get about what's happening in this film right here. Lucy saying, I was chatted up on the way to the toilet. Guy thought I was a strong, fine, young-looking thing. Tom says, you want me to go back there and have a stern word? He's kind of joking about it. He says, well, while you were there, some guy bumped into me and spilled a drink on me. I bought him and his friends a drink. They both thought it wasn't their fault. There was some tension. It was awkward. He says, the guy offered to buy me a drink. I just offered to buy him one. And basically he says, like, I bought drinks for everybody that he was sitting with. So it was, it was strange. And so they're telling this whole story as they're driving past a lake into a really remote area. And it does make me wonder if this was so coordinated that Lucy being stopped on the way to the stall was also part of it. hard to tell, right? We don't get these questions answered, I don't think, but we're definitely going to know that Tom's not telling the entire truth. In fact, some of this appears to be lies by the end of the film. So the car in front of them that they were following stops, and the guy waves them to continue. He's like, keep going forward. And the car's going to drive off in another direction. And Tom just flips him off, like, thanks so much for helping. Like, way to be hospitable. Tom is going to continue to drive. He is going to go up. He's going to keep driving in the direction he was pointed to go. But when he gets to the gate, it's got a big chain around it. Nobody has been here anytime recently. And he takes it off and drives through. See, as somebody who watches a lot of horror movies, I try not to encounter silly situations like this in my real life. So if somebody gave me directions to a secluded area and then suggested I continue down a road that has a big chain over it, and that's where the hotel is supposed to be, I'm thinking, no, I'm turning around. I'm going back to the pub. I might keep driving to the next town over. If there's one thing we've learned from this movie, it's that. Okay, so these two, they're 2 weeks in, they're going to kiss, and then we're going to find that the car GPS satellite is lost. And then we are going to see the only other people who basically aren't credited in this film is a car full of guys who drive past, mooning them. Lucy is going to make a call to some friends, the friends probably that she has left camping. She is likely telling them, I'm going to be at a hotel. And then Tom and Lucy drive through the gate. And we're on a really remote road, very beautiful sunlight, very sad field, says Lucy. There's a fork in the road and there's a sign for the hotel that points left. And so, okay, but wait a minute. Lucy's like, the map says to go right. I'm looking at the map. It says go this way. And Tom's like, yes, but there's a sign that says go the other way. So they have to make a choice. Lucy notices that there is a property behind them that has a keep out sign on it. Almost looks like it has like an office building in it. And Tom's going to follow the sign. That's I think the choice he makes in this situation. And Lucy says, I think I saw somebody at that property behind us. Tom's like, really doesn't matter. Doesn't matter at all. They drive, they're going to see another sign. They're going to keep following signs and taking, turns at forks and roads when they see signs, and they are definitely not following the map anymore. And the map isn't even that specific. It was really general. So that wasn't even that helpful to begin with. At one point, they're going to see two conflicting signs pointing in opposite directions. And Lucy's like, let's just call the hotel. So we are going to see that someone is watching them from the woods. And Lucy calls the hotel. She's trying to get her point across, but then the person hangs up and she calls back, but there is no answer. And she no longer has a signal. I'm guessing she called Max. Tom is going to start, making more choices and driving, and he's going to keep getting them more and more lost. And he finds the Killarney House Hotel car again, driving, but this time it doesn't stop. And it just sort of blows right past them. Tom is going to reverse direction to follow where the car was going because he figures, well, maybe it's going back to the Killarney House Hotel. That would make sense, right? So Tom is going to start to follow it, but they're lost pretty quickly. So he's going to now see some more signs. He's going to follow those again. Basically, they have no clue where they are. They get back to the house with the keep out sign. Or it's not really a house. It looks more like an office type of just a shack kind of a place. We're getting eerie music starting to happen now underpinning this scene. So, okay, like we're seeing the same place again, but we've driven a bunch. We were following the signs. How did we end up all the way back here? Doesn't feel great. Some choices that they're making as we're going along. Like in the beginning, we're seeing real visuals that are giving us a sense of place. And you're seeing the fields, you're seeing things that you can distinguish, at least to some degree. That's going to start changing now in a minute here, because Lucy's like, how can we, Tom says, how can we be back at this bit again? Lucy says, let's just go back to the pub. Let's just do that. They drive, they're watching trees go by. And now we've changed it from having things that like give us a sense of place to they're showing us sort of upward camera angles that are pointed more towards the sky through the trees. They're giving us real, like much closer up shots of the tree line, of the faces of our characters. And this makes it so that we don't know where we are anymore either. They don't know where they are, and we don't know where they are. And so we are going to see Lucy saying, this isn't the way we came. We're going back. We're going in circles. They keep going in the same directions over and over again. Their headlights come on because it's starting to get dark. So they're going to pull over. And Tom notices that there's sort of like a smaller country road. And he is like, well, I guess it's not a country road. It's a road in the woods, but it's just a smaller, less paved one. So Tom is going to get out. We're going to get a real close up on Lucy's eye. We're going to do that a couple times. And then, once we start doing that, that she's starting to feel some fear here, or at least some anxiety. So he is walking or sort of even jogging down that road a bit. And Lucy's in this car alone. We're going to hear footsteps crunching on the leaves, and Lucy's going to step out of the car. She's going to call to Tom and get no answer. Her hair is stuck on something. We can see her hair is sticking up, but what is it stuck on? She looks behind her. There's nothing there. And it seems like maybe she felt like somebody pulled her hair. Tom is then going to pull her out of the car, and you think, okay, maybe it was him that did it. She screams though, because that's a big jump scare for us. She's like, did you pull my hair? He says, no. Just like, it feels like he would have admitted it, given that he just is admitting to what he just did. She is going to grab a flashlight for them as they walk onto that, woods road. And Tom's like, we're not lost. It's fine. We know exactly where we are. They're walking away, and then they hear the horn of their car go off. And they run back to it, and the keys aren't in the car anymore. The horn keeps going off and startling them and startling us. And then Tom finds them on the ground. How did they get on the ground? They were in the car. They get in and drive, and it's getting weird. And it's now dark out. So Tom admits, I was scared back there. And Lucy was too, let's be honest. Tom says, I thought maybe there might be somebody in the bush waiting for us. Weird, right? We're going to get another close up on Lucy's eye and the sky looking upwards at the trees. So we have no idea where we are. And they're back at the house again, the one with the keep out sign. Lucy's like, oh my God, we're not lost. We're in a maze. Like this feels purposeful. She says, wait. There's a sign on that door back there for that shed or shack or whatever that is. She says, was that sign there before? She goes up to the door. She goes onto the property, the keep out property. And it's a map. It's a fire and like emergency escape route out of this wooded area. And it's supposed to be directing them back to the main road. She looks inside the place, doesn't see anything she needs or anyone. They're going to try to follow that map. And Tom is like, all right, here's the plan. If we get reception on that main road, we should just phone the people at the hotel and tell them to come get us. You can see Lucy's not so sure. Like, I don't know if we want to end up at that place. They get to a fork in the road. They try a new direction. And now they get into these unpassable, muddy country roads. Again, I call it country roads, but roads in the woods, trails almost. Maybe more than a trail, less than a road. But it is not passable anymore. And it rains. And now we're going to start getting things being really muddy in this movie. So there's going to be all of a sudden a tree that falls down almost on their car, but Tom evades it by going in reverse. Tom is just done with this. He throws the evacuation map out of the car. Now we're driving again. Lucy is starting to panic. It's dark out. She wants to get where she needs to get soon, like to a safe place as soon as possible. They are on a very narrow road going through hedges. And now with the headlights lighting the way, it's it's dreary and scary and anxiety inducing. And so is this even passable, this road that they're on? They're going to argue about that. And then they're going to see, Lucy's going to see somebody in an open space as they're passing, and she freaks out. Tom's like, I'll go back and check it. And he goes in reverse, and it's a scarecrow. Okay, enough's enough. Tom has to go pee. So he's going to stop the car. Lucy's just like sitting there staring at this scarecrow. He's kind of far away from her as he's going to the bathroom, and his door is then all of a sudden shut. But who shut it? That's the real question. So she is going to flash her light, which is, he's in the path of her headlight. So she shines her light and finds, yep, Tom's there. But also behind Tom is somebody else wearing a mask. And they're just standing there near Tom, and she's screaming and she's honking at him, and he's like now starting to walk towards her, and the person hides. That person could have done whatever they wanted to Tom at any time and did not. This was something for Lucy to see. So Tom didn't hear anything, but Lucy is absolutely terrified of this. They're going to keep driving now, and Lucy's like, he was wearing a white mask. I couldn't see his face. It could have been one of those men we saw. She's like, wait a minute. What happened in the pub? Really? Tom's like, I already told you. They keep driving. They're going to see clothes in the road. Turns out it's Lucy's clothes. My assumption here, because at one point Lucy's like, we never left the car. They did. They went to check out that one road, and they came back and the horn was being honked, and the alarm was going off is really what I should say. And that's probably when somebody stole the clothes. So Tom is going to get out of the car. He's going to grab all the clothes. Lucy's like, why are they doing this to us? Tom doesn't know. Tom, do you have no idea? We're going to get back in the car. Tom's going to take a shot. Lucy's like, are you effing with me? Tom says, why would you say that? Like, if it's really best case scenario that Tom is messing with her, because then he can just stop and she's perhaps not in so much danger, but Tom didn't do this. So they're driving, they're anxious. Tom is drinking. Lucy's got clenched fists. We keep getting close-ups of her hands and, her rings as she's clenching her fists. They're running out of gas, which makes sense. They've been driving a while. Tom's going to pull over. He doesn't see any signs anymore. The gas is low. Where are we going? We need to preserve. So they're both drinking. Tom's like, let's play a game. They could do an either or game. He's like, would you prefer this or this? And so she's picking some things randomly. And then Lucy's like, okay, wait, enough of the game. Something happened in the pub. Tom says, yeah. How about you? Tell me about the barman. Maybe you did or didn't do something to him. Lucy gets really annoyed at that, and she's going to get out of the car. She's going to go to the trunk. She's going to get a coat. For a minute, we do that thing where you can't see what's behind the door. At this time, though, Lucy is the one who's supposed to be like hidden by the trunk as it's popped open. And she's using this as an opportunity to just cry just a little bit, just to get it out. She gets back into the car. Tom's also crying. And she's fixing up her seat, trying to get things comfortable, a little bit warmer. And somebody with a mask grabs her. They pull her out of the car. They pull her away from the car. She's screaming. The sound design is just violent and loud. And Tom runs out to go get her. He pulls her away from the attacker, the kidnapper, and the man runs away. They both run back to the car. Tom's driving. Lucy is just like trying to come down from this adrenaline. She's screaming. They drive through the hedges, and now there's a man in the road in front of them. Lucy screams, and Tom tries to swerve around him, but hits him. So they stop. And the question is, do you go back or not? And Lucy's like, nope, got to keep driving, got to keep driving. And Tom's like, he wasn't wearing a mask though. Lucy's like, what if it's the guy who just grabbed me? Tom says, or what if it's not? And this is a person who needs help and they're running away, or I killed them. Like lots of reasons that Tom can think of to go back and check on this person. But Lucy has a very real sense of physical peril right now. And I don't blame her. I would feel the same way. So he's like, look, if you want, I will drive on. This is your call. And for some ungodly reason, Lucy decides to stick this one out. And that, my friends, is probably why she lives at the end of this film. So, okay, maybe that's a lesson for me. Okay, Tom is going to get out of the car. He's going to look for this man that he hit. And as he goes away, creepily enough, some guy getting real low who wasn't visible in any of the mirrors reaches down from the ground, pulls open the door, and gets into the back seat behind Lucy. And Lucy is going to scream because this man very sketchily just got into the back of the car. And so Tom's going to come running back in her direction because this is very alarming. And so this guy, he has a big gash over his eye. He looks all banged up. There's blood on his face. And the man says, did you do this to me? Tom says, yeah, I hit you. Man's like, I'm not talking about the car. I mean, did you drag me into the woods, into that clearing? Did you do this with a knife? Lucy's like, no, we were attacked too. So he is feigning that he is in the same situation that they're in. The man says, look, they're out there. They'll be looking for us. Like, we have to get out of here now. Do you want this to happen to you? You've got to drive, Tom. Like, get in the car and drive. Lucy is urging Tom to get in the car, partly because she doesn't want to be in the car alone with this guy. The man's like, look, I don't care if you take me a mile down the road. Like, just get me out of here now. He's really pressing. And if he were afraid, this is the type of stuff he'd be saying, right? Tom reluctantly gets into the car and drives, but really, like, how the roles have reversed here. Tom is not so sure about this guy anymore. Tom sees the guy starting to nod off in the mirror, and then we're going to pass the Killarney House Hotel sign. The man says, thank you. I know you hit me, but if you hadn't come out of that car, he's in a lot of pain. Lucy said, did you see your attacker? The guy's like, no, I think it's the guys from the pub. I mean, I don't understand, but he's like, oh, anyway, I'm Max. And they make their introductions. The man asks to see his face in Lucy's mirror. She's going to pull it down. Looks like the injury is pretty bad. Max says, all right, let's go to the hotel. Let's just go back to the hotel. I know where the hotel is. I need to lie down. Just follow the signs. It's easy. Just follow the signs. They're like, oh my God. What do you think we've been doing for hours? Lucy is looking back more and more at the guy in their back seat, and she's feeling wary. They're driving. The gas tank's almost empty. Max starts to ask some questions. Are you a couple? Lucy says no. Tom's like, we're going to a festival. Max says, well, why are you staying in a hotel? They don't answer. Max imperceptibly, just a little bit, smiles. He's like, you've been drinking, Tom? He grabs the bottle of alcohol that he finds, says, well, no wonder you didn't see me. Tom's going to stop the car because he's going to see that strung up in the road, there's like a barricade fashioned out of animal carcasses and string. Not the type of thing that you make in, a few hours after having an encounter with somebody at a pub. Max is going to tell Tom to drive through it. He's like, just go through it. Just go through. Can't go back. Just go through. Tom does. Max says, okay, I know why they're after me. Like, there's some bad blood. One guy, he's the ringleader. Like, he did this thing where he made a car swerve off the road, and like he did it on purpose, and it crashed and the driver died. He's just a bad guy. Might very well be a story about Max himself. And might be the exact thing that he was trying to do to Lucy at the end of this movie. So we've got a new spot here, and Max is like, You know what? Why are you bringing me back to this spot? I know this spot. I don't like this spot. This is a familiar traumatic spot. I don't want to be here. What are you doing? What happened? How did we get here? Look, I'm bleeding to death back here. What do you want from me? Like, take me somewhere away from the traumatizing place that I was at before. So now, Tom's like, I don't know, which way do you want me to go? Max is like, all right, I know where we are now. Go straight ahead. And then take the first right. So they drive, and we're gonna see Max. It looks like he's just smirking just a little bit, but you can't totally make it out. And he's giving Tom instructions now, and it becomes this really sort of droning feeling. He is now alert and leaning closer right behind Tom as he's driving, and he is saying left, right. He's giving directions. And there's this feeling I get at this point in the film of some sort of inevitability. Like there's some sort of hopelessness for the couple up front. I don't feel good about Max being in the back. I don't think they feel good about Max being in the back. And it feels like he's in total control of this situation. So they're going to stop. Max is confused. He's like, they changed the signs. What did you do to piss them off, Tom? Tom's like, no, I did nothing. Max says, no, seriously, did you provoke them? What happened? Tom's like, nothing. Lucy says, what about the pub? Max says, well, what happened? Did you say something? Tom says, no, nothing happened in the pub. Max is like, Lucy, what happened? Something happened. I know something happened. You said something, didn't you? He keeps pressing. He's pressing a lot on this point. We're going to get a lot more close-ups of faces. And then Tom just gets angry. He roars, gets out of the car, and slams the door. So now Max is in the car alone with Lucy. He's like exploring his maleness there. Is he always like that? Lucy says, I don't know. We met 2 weeks ago. Lucy's not co-signing for Tom. Max says, well, did he piss off those men in the pub? He did. I know. They took offense. That's why this is happening. Lucy's like, wait, you were there? Max says, I didn't want to alarm anybody, but I saw Tom. He spilled a man's pint. Lucy's like, no, it was the other way around. Max says, no, like Tom spilled a pint and he refused to buy another until the man got nasty. Lucy says, no, he bought everybody around. Look, this is going to be a game of he said, right? Like we're not going to know. We're not going to know what happened here. And frankly, the answer doesn't really matter. And this would have happened anyway. Max would have done this to somebody, but he was going to do it to Tom because Tom was already the one who had reserved the hotel. So they were just looking for a reason for this. I'm sure it was a setup. I'm sure the drink spilling situation happened on purpose. And, it's just like, whose events are the correct events? Like, I bet Tom was a jerk. I totally believe that Tom was a jerk. And I totally believe that tensions flared up and people got alpha male on each other. I totally believe it. And I think Max was always going to do this. So, but if we need any more evidence of the fact that I think Tom would probably flare up at the pub, I think we're going to see it later when they fight in the mud. Okay, so for now, Tom's going to the bathroom. Max is really hurting. He starts to exert more control. He starts to sort of dominate the car. So he says, Lucy, can you get me a drink? Is there any water? She's like, it's right next to you. He's like, could you get it? She gets it for him. He's like, could you open it? She's like, okay. Tom is going to come around the car. Max is staring at him in just like an eerie, I'm going to kill you stare. And Tom gets into the car. Max is like, feel better, Tom? Do you want me to drive? And now he's smiling a little bit. Tom sees it in the rearview mirror and he is unsettled. Tom's like, nope, I'll drive. And Max knows exactly where they are now. He's like, I can get us out of here. He's drinking their water. He knows how to, get them out of here, all the things. Lucy and Tom are exchanging glances now. They both don't like this guy. She's going to touch Tom's arm. They're going to hold hands. They're just trying to have a little togetherness in this moment. Max sees all of this. So he scratches his wound. His head starts bleeding again. And he's like, oh my gosh, my head's bleeding again. Lucy, can you check the glove box? Maybe there's something that we can use to like bandage this up. She checks the glove box, and the fire hazard map, the emergency evacuation map, is in the glove box. The one that Tom threw out the car window and was not in the car anymore is now in the glove box. And we're going to see Max see the fire hazard map, and he's going to just sort of let this one sink in. Lucy says, did you cut your own face, Max? She knows. I'm glad that they have it so that we've just put it out there in this movie. She says, so did you cut your face? How about my clothes, my face, like my clothes, my hair, dragging me out of the car? And he has his hand on Lucy's shoulder because he wants to creep her out by touching her. He's like, yeah, it was always just me. That was just me. He then very aggressively grabs her head and creates a panic in the car on purpose. He says he has a knife in the back of her head and she's screaming. And he's like, drive faster, Tom, drive faster or I'll kill her. Drive faster. And Tom's driving faster and we're hearing the engine rev and we can barely see where this car is going. It's raining, it's night. The headlights are shining on just like very narrow. I don't even know that you could call it a road, what they're on. And Lucy's like, I can feel it. It's just the power of suggestion here, really. And he's like, drive faster, Tom, drive faster. Max says, I'll kill her. I'm not joking. And he says, faster. And then there's a frenzy and they just skid to a stop. And Lucy's screaming. Max was like, it's interesting. You had a choice because I don't have a seatbelt. You do. So it could have been fine for you. But yeah. Okay, well, anyway, so here's the game, Lucy. You choose which one of you I kill. And he starts counting down and she's screaming and he counts down and she eventually, under pressure, under duress, tells him to kill Tom. Tom is going to cower in the front. She's screaming. And then Max lets go and laughs. He's like, I don't even have a knife. And he just laughs. He says, well, it's been interesting, guys. Thanks for the ride. And he gets out and Tom is going to get into the back seat and fight him out of the car. And then he's going to keep fighting him. And Max is laughing. Lucy's just traumatized. Well, Tom follows him and he cracks an alcohol bottle over Max's head and then starts beating him into the mud. It's been raining a lot. This is a very muddy scene. Lucy's crying in the car. Max and Tom have just a full-on mud fight. And Max grabs the broken bottle top or handle of the bottle. He gives it to Tom. Okay. And he sort of puts his hands up and is like, take a free shot. Take a free shot, Tom. But then when Tom comes over to do that, he's going to grab Tom's hand, his arm, and he's going to snap his wrist and break it. So Max says, violence is the mother and the daughter. I'm not 100% sure I've worked out the context of that line just yet. It's the one that gives birth and the ones that I don't know. I'll get there eventually. I would love your feedback. Max is going to walk away with Tom in pain on the ground in the mud with a broken wrist. Lucy's going to run out to Tom. Max watches this. He's, intrigued by Lucy's caring for Tom here. He disappears into the forest. Into the woods, really. Lucy now is driving. Dom is barely awake and they run out of gas. Tom's like, I wanted to kill him. Lucy says, he said your name. We're going to see in the rear view mirror lights coming up. She doesn't finish that thought. There are lights coming up behind them. Lucy's like, get out of the car. She can instantly tell that it's Max. They get out, they're going to run into the woods, and those truck lights are shining on them, trying to find them. They turn off their flashlights, they hide. The truck passes, but he knows where they are. They're going to walk the path. And then Tom, they both have a flashlight. They're just waving them around, trying to find things, disorienting us. We don't know where they are. They don't know where they are. And we're going to see a masked man standing behind Tom. Tom backs up into him and he's grabbed and disappears, gone. Lucy looks back. She doesn't see Tom. She goes back to the car alone. She's shining the light everywhere, disorienting us. And there's a gift in the front of the car now, in the front seat. There's a jug of gas. All of this is part of the master plan. She's going to fill up the tank. She's going to drive again. She's going to watch, somebody's going to watch her go. And it looks like the satellite on her is working again to get the GPS on the car, at least to some degree. Wherever she is right now, it's working somewhat. She sees the hotel sign. She considers, should I go there? And she follows the sign pointing to where the hotel is. And then she gets to the Killarney House Hotel. This is a slice of paradise. It's really a junkyard. It's this old abandoned property with all kinds of junked cars around it. And she stops. She gets out for some ungodly reason and she explores it. And then we're going to hear Max in his truck shouting, just constant shouting. That sign took him ages. Obviously, just he's orchestrated all of this. So she's going to get back into her car. She gets out of the lot. He's going to chase her down the road. He's going to keep chasing. It's a silent chase for a second, which is a cool effect that they did with the sound design. And then we get the sound again. We're hearing the sound of the hum of the engines, the flooring of the gas. We're going to hear, she's just the panic that we're feeling for her, that she's feeling for herself. He looks intent on killing her right now. He's tailgating, he's honking. It's like, come on, Lucy. Lucy's like, finish your effing game. You got me. She's getting so angry at this situation. And Max then drives away from her cheering. And it occurs to Lucy, wait, what's happening here? She gets out of the car. She's going to check the trunk. There's a hose coming out of the exhaust and going into the trunk. She opens the trunk and inside it is Tom, who has a mask. Basically, he has a hose in his mouth that's been taped to his face so he can't remove it. And he's been sucking in the exhaust as Lucy's been car chased. So you could say she killed him. She didn't, but she might feel that way eventually. So he's dead now, and Max watches all this. She walks out away from the car and she just starts crying and sobbing. She's alone against Max right now. She killed Tom by driving away from Max. It's just, quite an inventive way to torture somebody, really. We're going to see Max is intrigued by all this, but maybe he's had enough. He walks into the brush. Maybe he'll let her go. We're going to see daylight coming. Lucy is driving into a much clearer area, the type of area that they saw right after they passed that gate with the chain on it earlier. So maybe she's on her way out of this place. Max is going to step onto the road in front of her. She stops her car and she considers what to do next. Max goes, come on, Lucy. He waves for her to come and he smiles. We're going to get savage music. Lucy grips her wheel. She floors the gas. She screams toward him and she is screaming. And then it cuts. And we don't get to see if there was an impact or not. Now, look, earlier in the film, we know that Max probably orchestrated something similar with somebody else and they swerved off a road and they died. They were killed instantly. I feel like she's going to hit him. But I suppose that's the thing that this movie is trying to get us to think about. Like, do you think that she kills him and he dies? Do you think that she swerves off the road and she dies? Probably somebody dies here. So, who is it? I believe it's Lucy. But that might be the optimist in me wanting a final girl and wanting to think that she could survive this situation. Maybe the point of it is that he always does this and he always gets away with it, and she's meant to swerve and die. I don't know. I just feel like she's got it in her. I mean, look, that's what I thought about this movie, In Fear. The question is, what did you think about this movie? Let me know in the comment section whatever feedback you have. Who do you think dies in the end, if anybody? And what I really need to know, though, is how scary this movie is, because my scary meter is busted. I've watched, like I said, so many horror movies that at this point I'm just desensitized to them. So I would really appreciate if you would get your scary meter out and rank this one from 1 to 10 in terms of how scary you think it is. 1 being not scary at all, 10 being it's so scary, and anywhere in between. Let's see where it lands. And if we're looking for recommendations for other people, an average rating might help in that regard. And next time, it's going to be day 24, and we're actually watching a movie called The Crow from 1994. I don't know that you would call this a horror. It's more of an action fantasy film. I'm putting this one in the not too scary category. For those who are, doing the modified version of this and they wanted some not too scary films, I have one a week for October, so they can check those out. And this is the one on the list for this week. I think it's really atmospheric and fun, and it feels a bit like a comic book come to life. I would say that the tragedy, the horror of this film was in the making of it, because there was an onset accident that was a fatal accident, and it led to Brandon Lee's death. So it's there is something horrific in the movie, but perhaps it's not the movie itself as much as what happened behind the scenes. But I'm looking forward to watching that one and getting a chance to talk it through with all of you. I hope you'll join me for that recap. In the meantime, happy EEKtober, everybody. Get spooky, get donuts.